there's time.
Okay. No.
Yep. Yep. And I think Ron's going to do the mic. So if there are any policy questions about what the GLR support center is going to do, toss it to him.
Okay, turn right on your bus.
Pardon?
I said that's right. Turn right on your bus.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me ask you to take your seats. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bob Saffold, and I work with Ron Fairchild, and my colleagues Suzanne Bell and Jenny Atkinson. We staff the GLR Support Center for the campaign. I'm joined on the platform this afternoon by 5 colleagues with whom I've been working very closely over the past number of months as partners in the new GLR Learning System road test. To my immediate left and manning the laptop here is Zak Zielezinski. Zak is CEO of Declara, our technology partner. Next to him is Alex Scott. Alex is a Campaign for Grade Level Reading colleague who is our Salesforce database guru in the national office and our overall technology go-to. Next to Alex is Malai Amfahr with the United Way of Story County, Iowa. She's the Story County Reads Coordinator and also serves as the community lead for Ames, Iowa. Next to Malai is Mike English. Mike is the Executive Director of Turn the Page KC and is the community lead in Kansas City, Missouri. And finally, on the far end, Marissa Blankinship is the Community Services Assistant with the Roanoke, Virginia Public Library, and she is the designated data lead for the Star City Reads campaign in Roanoke, Virginia. So, during this session, we're going to drill down and actually demonstrate the new GLR Learning for Impact and Improvement system for you. First, Zak is going to conduct a live online tour. We're going to connect with the internet, hope it works, and he's going to connect a live online tour of the system. He's going to point out several key features that we think will be of particular interest to you. Then Zak and I are going to talk about several so-called use cases from the perspective of a community lead or a perspective of a local coalition partner organization in your community. Then my colleague Alex is going to administer a brief online poll using the Slido technology, just to get a finger on the pulse. Then I'll call on my network colleagues to talk briefly about their experiences as participants in the learning system road test phase, and more on that in just a second. And then we'll open up the floor for Q&A before Ron closes us out for the afternoon. So, that said, I'd like to take just a moment to set the context for you. We are in the midst of what we are calling the road test phase of the co-development of the learning system with the GLR network. Over the past 6 months, we have invited 82 communities and all of our state leads, all of whom were organized in a series of sequenced cohorts to join us in co-developing the learning system. These 82 communities include all of the pacesetter communities from last year and this year, as well as all of the bright spot communities this year. Now, over the past 6 months, as we've brought on these cohorts, we've asked community leads, and some have invited partners in actually as a part of the road test. We've asked you to spend some time on the system to test it out, to kick the tires, so to speak, and provide us with feedback so that the learning system supports, advances and accelerates your local GLR work. Zak and his team at Declara have been making regular updates and adding enhancements to the system based on that feedback. And notably, we anticipate continuing the road test in the coming months by adding more communities to the system. Again, continuing our practice of bringing communities on board in regular sequenced cohorts. So you should look for more information on how to join the road test in the follow-up to the GLR week convening. You can also let us know of your interest, by the way, by completing a survey about the learning system that is on the conference app. You can go to the GLR icon on the conference app, and you'll see it there. There's a set of surveys and other materials, and the one that's specific to the Learning for Impact and Improvement system. So, with that as context and that as background, Zak, we'll turn to you and take us away on a tour of the learning system.
All right. Thanks so much, Bob. It's great to be here, and it's great to be here with all of you. And finally getting to meet some of the folks who've been interacting with digitally over the last several months in the flesh. We were really excited to partner with the campaign starting last fall to help co-develop with them the Learning for Impact and Improvement system. And so we partnered with the campaign and made a number of enhancements and augmented our existing underlying social learning and collaboration product, the Declara.com platform, to really support the use case of the campaign, and specifically the local communities, the leads, the partners, and the coalitions that are doing such important work. And so after several months of development, working with the team at the campaign and many of the community leads, I'm excited to now have a chance to kind of take the covers off and do the grand unveiling of the system. And so I'm just going to kind of go quickly through some of the key elements and components of the platform, some key functionality, and then kind of turn it back over to Bob. But starting off, so I'm logged in right now as a user in the system, and you'll notice a couple probably visual elements that look vaguely familiar if you've been working with the campaign for a while. One of the first asks actually that the campaign had when we started building out the system was, Ron said, "We want you to bring the map to life." And so that's exactly what we did. And so one of the core elements of the landing page is actually an interactive map of the entire network, which should look very familiar to everyone. And so we have stars in all of the communities which are currently on the platform, so you can actually see all of the communities, zoom in, drill down to specific states.
And Zak, I should say that these are only the communities that have joined the platform. So there are 82 communities on the platform right now, so you will not see all 390 communities represented yet.
Yet, being the key term. And I'll show you in a moment how we can actually use that map to actually filter and actually discover other communities as well. You'll also see on the right side of the screen my newsfeed, so very much like your Facebook feed. So all of the communities that I'm a part of or that I'm interested in receiving updates from, those will all be, all of those most recent updates will show up on my screen there on the right side. The other thing that we made interactive was the GLR bingo matrix. And so you can see represented on the bingo matrix the work that's being done by the local communities that are currently on the system at the different intersection points of the solution areas and cross-cutting issues. And so let's say I would like to see, I'm getting ready to start a project on school readiness that involves public housing. I can actually go into the aggregate bingo matrix from the whole network, select, click on that number and see a list of stories, bright spots, resources, and things that have been shared throughout the network that are aligned to the intersection of public housing and school readiness. And I can also look at this at the individual community level as well to see the specific areas that each community is working within. You'll also see the aggregate results of the current communities making measurable progress across the different core measurement areas of the campaign. Next, I'd actually like to drill into the community directory a bit. And so I can go and view all communities, and you'll notice that we have added a number of filters for the map. which allow you to actually filter the overall communities in the network based on partner types, award types, solution areas, and activity around cross-cutting issue, particular cross-cutting issue areas. Let's say, though, I'm going to go in and I'm going to actually pick on Roanoke here. So further, once you roll over and you find a community you'd like to connect with, you can actually select that community and see the profile for that particular community, including all of the current members of that community who are signed up and active on the system. You can see the designated community leads, their at-a-glance demographic statistics, and awards that they've received for the current year and all prior years as well. We have pre-populated for all of the communities that are on the system currently their most recently submitted CSAP, as well as their most recently submitted community self-assessments, and also worked with them to obtain and load, pre-populate all of that community's partner organizations. So I can see all of these things at a glance on the community profile page, or if you've built out a lot of partners as Roanoke has, I actually have to go onto the View All page to see their extensive list of partners that they're currently working with. Further, I can see actually stories that community has published about their work. So I can see a list of all of the stories that Roanoke has shared about the work that they're doing and wanted to make available to everyone else in the system right here. And as I go down, we've actually also recently enabled the input and reporting for performance data as well. So I can see actually a chart of the overall third grade reading proficiency rate for the local community in Roanoke and what those trends are looking like over time. As Ron mentioned earlier, we will be expanding this across different areas, different measurement areas in the coming months as well. And finally, for each community, we can see that community's areas of activity as represented in their bingo matrix. So I can see, for example, Roanoke is doing a lot at the intersection around actually school readiness and parents. I'd like to see what that is. I can actually go in and further, I can select one of those stories, and that's going to actually take me in to actually view that story. There we go. And allow me to start actually discussing and collaborating around that story with the network. Now, the underlying core Declara platform is very much around collaborative social learning through shared curation, annotation, and discussion. And then what we do is use artificial intelligence to actually then help surface the most relevant content, resources, and communities for you as an individual based on all of how you're actually using the platform and where you're spending your time. And so as I go in, I can actually view this story around the Star City Reads Fall Festival and Book Fair, and I can actually go in as I'm viewing this and actually highlight particular sections of content that I think are particularly insightful or relevant. And furthermore, I can take those and actually start a conversation with Roanoke or with the network as a whole around this particular item of content. So I can say, hey, this is great. I can tag Melissa and say, nice work. Furthermore, I can take that insight, that thing that I found most relevant or interesting within that resource or story or article that has been shared, I can actually take and actually add that into the discussion as well to really focus the conversation on what really matters and what is most insightful in terms of moving the work and the objectives forward. And so, let's see, going out, so this is going to take me into the GLR Commons team. And so everyone, when they join the platform, is automatically joined to a shared community forum, the CGLR Commons, and also joined to a private team specific to their community. And so we have this concept of teams, which are the core collaborative spaces within the platform. They allow you to share any type of resource from any location, first of all, and that could be a news article in your local newspaper. It could be a video that's on YouTube or has been published on Vimeo, or it can be say a PowerPoint, a PDF, a Word document that you upload from your computer or import from Google Docs, say. That then becomes available to everyone else who is in that same team with you, whether that is the network as a whole, such as the case in GLR Commons, or just a team specific and private just to your community. And so as we've been working through the road test cohort, as some of the folks on stage will talk a bit more about. We've also been setting up for some communities private collaboration communities, which are separate from the public community in the system as a whole. That has a separate administration and allows them to bring in their partners and have their own private collaborative space for them to work with their local coalition and community partners. Within that space, they can create an unlimited number of teams around specific topics, programs, or really they can be organized in any way that the community sees fit, and then invite people in to join them in that community, and then they have a private space in which to collaborate, share, and discuss and move their work forward, which is completely shielded and not accessible to anyone else on the system. And so I think with that, there are definitely additional elements of the system, but that should give everyone the high-level overview, and thank you again. Really excited to be launching this today.
Great. Thanks so much, Zach. Thanks for the tour. Lots of great features. It's certainly been exciting working with you, along with, again, the 82 communities and our state leads who've been a part of the road test thus far. And again, we're hoping that everybody in this room over the next 18 months will join the learning system. You sooner rather than later, because you're here. So we'll look forward to following up with you after the conference. I'm going to put on my community lead hat now for just a moment. And Zach, I'm going to ask you to demonstrate a few use cases or concrete examples, if you will, of how I, as a community lead, might find some value in the learning system. First, what if I'm really interested in engaging public libraries in my GLR coalition? And I want to talk with a few network community leads who are maybe working with libraries or who might themselves be part of the public library system in my community or in that community. How can I find out which network communities have a local library as a coalition partner?
Oh, well, Bob, you guys still send out the printed directory in the mail to everyone, right?
I would, but not you.
Well, here's how I would do it.
Yeah.
I would actually go into the directory page that has the filters, and I would actually select the filter to partner by, select a filter to distill the results by partner types. So I can look for, let's say, communities that have libraries as partner. Select that, and you'll notice we started with about 82 communities. The map will update, and so that's going to take us down to say 20 or so communities, which actually have libraries as one of their partners. I can see exactly who those communities are and see them kind of light up here on the map.
That's too many to work with. What if I want, let me just pick the pace setter communities, because I know the pace setters are sort of, leading the way for us. So.
Well, you're asking for a lot, Bob, but,
Bear with me.
But, okay, let me try to give this a shot. We could select by communities who are partnered with libraries and our pace setters. How about that?
Fantastic. Narrow the list a little bit for me.
Yeah, it looks like that eliminated 4, which,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm looking on this list here, and what if I want to contact the community lead in Louisville, Kentucky, about how they've engaged their library?
Well, why don't we zoom in on Kentucky? And oh, look, I see Louisville. Did you know that they were partnered with the library and the pace setter?
I saw it on the learning system.
Oh. Well, there we go. We have Louisville, Kentucky. We have, and the designated community leads here are Dustin Duncan and Amy Neal. Are you guys in the room?
Not here.
Oh, well then, I guess you'll have to email them. So you can do that simply, but luckily we have their information here, and you can just click on their email, and that's going to open up a new message on your computer, and away you go.
For those of us of a certain age, this is really thrilling. You're making this easy.
Welcome to
for
the
me.
future, Bob.
Thank you. All right. So I also can look at the list of libraries, list of communities, pace setter communities. You've went down the list for me, and you told me how I could contact the community lead. Soon, so that you will know in the audience, we'll not only be able to filter by the types of coalition partners in communities, but also by community leadership, by the type of organization that's in the community lead, such, again, as a public library or a community foundation or a mayor's office, for example. If I'm a community lead who works in the public library, for example, I might want to connect with them in a peer-to-peer conversation. So we're going to be building that particular filter, that search feature, into the system as a priority after the convening. So moving on, Zach, if I have a really neat resource that I've developed, and I'd like to share it with the network. What would I do?
Well, there are a couple of different ways you can do that. You can definitely publish a story if it's about an activity you've been working on and you want to populate your bingo matrix. But let's say it's just, say, a resource or an article that you found on the internet or a new research report that you wanted to share with everyone. Well, one way you could do that is, just going to jump over into the directory here, but you can actually go into the GLR Community Forum team, of which everyone who is on the system is a part. And I'm just going to go here to the directory and find that team. So we can go into that team. And it's actually as easy. Do you know how to copy and paste, Bob?
I think I do that.
Okay, so you can just, if it's something that's out on the open internet, simply open it up in your browser, copy the URL, paste it into the URL box here, and then it will take 2 to 3 seconds if you can wait that long. Then it will be instantly available to everyone else in the network. Folks will receive email notification that, Bob, you shared this great new resource with the rest of the network. Or maybe it's something you developed yourself, and so you want to upload that. And so you can just upload that file directly from your computer or Box or Google Drive or Dropbox. And really essentially any type of content. So it could be a Word document, a PDF, a video, an image, a PowerPoint deck that you used with your parents for a community meeting. All of that can be shared through the GLR Commons team and becomes instantly available to everyone. And it will even show up on their newsfeed.
Fantastic. I'm going to go off script here for just a second and just let you into the little secret that Zach is giving me guff here because on one of our onboarding webinars a couple of months ago, I made a reference to Candid Camera, which Ron back there said, nobody knows what Candid Camera is, Bob, only, those of a certain age. So I'm going to play along here, Zach. We'll continue.
I'll try to go easy.
All right. What if I want to pose a question to the network?
Oh, well.
What would I do?
Same thing. Go into the GLR Commons forum, and you can actually ask the team a question. So you can start a conversation such as, well, what's the question you want to ask the network, Bob?
What are the best strategies for reducing chronic absence in a rural community?
Well, now you're getting at my spelling skills, Bob, which since I'm younger than you, I don't know how to spell without spell check.
Old
But I'll do my best.
Here.
Let me post that. Great. And so now we've started a discussion. It's been posted to the full community. Is there anybody, Bob, that you think you might actually want to call out specifically to?
What about, again, people in rural communities in North Carolina?
Well, in North Carolina, we have North Carolina, rural communities in North Carolina.
Moore County.
I think I was speaking with Malai or Becky recently. I think some of the work that you guys are doing with rural counties. So I'm actually going to jump to Malai.
I'll take Malai.
Can you help? And so now we've started a conversation. I've just mentioned Malai, and so she's going to get a little notification now saying, Bob, that you need best strategies for reducing chronic absence in rural communities.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
I'm going to take one more example here. What if I'm interested in expanding my community's work at the intersection of school readiness and child health? And I want to see what resources are on the learning system about home visiting programs.
Oh, well, I think rather than wade through a lot of different documents and files in Google Drive or on a website, why don't we just search for that? Home visits?
Home visiting.
So actually do a search, and that is actually going to generate the results from across all of the private teams that I am a part of, as well as all of the resources that have been shared by the local communities and anything that's been curated by the central staff as well.
Click into the Bridgeport.
We have 27 results, just so you know, but no videos yet. I'm a visual learner.
Okay, and scroll down. So we see.
Oh, this is great.
Bright spot.
Yeah, it's a bright spot from Bridgeport,
Universal
Connecticut.
Screening, universal home visiting.
Oh, this is fantastic. Oh, and I really love this sentence. So I'm going to mark that as an insight. And that way, anyone who's viewing this after me can actually see that I've marked this as an insight, and I wanted to call attention to this particular subsection of the resource because I find that this is particularly interesting or insightful. It was helpful for me. Plus, now other people can like my insight, and that gives me, emotional and social gratification as well, which I need. I always need all of the extrinsic motivation I can get.
So thank you, Zach, for the guided tour. Let's give Zach a hand as our tour director. Thank you. We're going to pause now for a moment to get some quick feedback from you about what you've seen thus far. I'm going to call on Alex to help us with this by using a Slido question.
Yes, thank you, Bob. All right, so all this week we are doing interactive polling with the audience members, and today we have just one question for you in today's session. So if everyone can get their laptop out real quick or their phone, and it's 2 steps. You just have to go to slido.com, that's SLIDO, and enter hashtag GLR. And then the question is, so after the preview that we just showed you with the system, what features of the GLR Learning for Impact and Improvement system most excite you regarding its potential to advance your work? And we're asking for you to choose your top 2 choices. We have, I think, 6 different choices. So in terms of capacity to share resources and collaborate, connecting with other communities, searching for plans and programs. So I'm just going to wait about 20 seconds. I see all the results are kind of being tallied up right now. And this will help us over the next couple months with your feedback to make improvements to the system. So very much appreciated.
A few more seconds. Tell me when you want to lock in the answers.
Remember, you can pick your top 2.
All right.
Okay.
Lock it in. Fantastic. All right, thanks, Alex. It's great to see the interest, and Zach, I'm sure we'll spend some time talking more about the results with you and your team. Again, along with the results of the survey that, again, you can find on the conference app, and we do encourage you to take that survey when you leave this session. Now, I'd like to move on to hearing from our network colleagues. Each was asked to take a few minutes to talk with you about their experiences as early adopters during the road test, and also talk a bit about their vision and their plans for using the system to support their work. First, we're going to hear from Malai from Ames.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to open just by repeating something that I heard in the session this morning with the state and community convening, which is that technology is just a container for all of our insights. And I found that really powerful. in that we are the ones that are building out this system. So if you see the system and what Zak has demonstrated in what it can do, it's only as powerful as we make it. And that is truly from the heart, that if we have a dedication to using it, then it will be more powerful, and this is the purpose for the system. And as we just saw in the poll, most of us are interested in connecting with GLR networks across the country, and this is an ability for us to do that geographically and touch point on some very real topics that are important to us. So how we've used it within our community, as United Way of Story County, we are the backbone agency for our campaign and our coalition. So I use it in two ways. The first way is as a backbone agency, I am looking for very structured information that I can use to build the infrastructure of our group. So I'm looking for things like collective impact. I'm looking for things like how other communities similar to us have tackled some really challenging community level problems. And so I use that information that I'm researching on the system and then taking that back into my core meetings with other groups. It's a visual sharing system. I am not tech savvy. I only just got Facebook maybe 2 years ago because I had to for work. So just the ability that it is very user-friendly is a nice plug for those of us who are technology challenged. I'm able to drag and drop things into the system very easily and then share it instantaneously with my colleagues, which is also really nice. The ability to chat also, not being constrained to geography and having the notifications go out instantly to team members has also been pretty powerful. It's very focused. Unlike email, which we are all inundated with emails, this comes to your inbox and you can tell exactly what is being directed towards you and why and what the information that's being shared is. And so in that way, it's very nicely focused for you to be able to filter through and for your colleagues to also be able to understand what questions you're asking. It's also a way that I can unite my local small team. So that's the second use that I have for it. I have a very powerful and strong school readiness team. We look at a lot of things in that team, very specifically data, platform sharing, health, how health factors into having youth be ready for school. And so with that team, my core group is maybe about 6 members cross-sector. So I have the public library who's engaged with that. I have folks from nonprofit agencies who are engaged with that team. And we as a team within school readiness are able to look very focused ability to see what others are doing within that and then share that with our teams. Last, I want to say that our rural communities are pretty strong. So Story County, we have Ames, home of Iowa State, Cyclones if you're a basketball fan. I don't know if anyone here, football as well. But Ames is not the only community in Story County. We also have some more rural communities that we are engaging with. And so this tool has been able to help us expand into those areas where geography might limit us in bringing those people to the table. So this has been a nice way for us to reach across that using technology better, smarter. This is how we're going to have to go if we really want to engage everybody that we're working with.
Thanks so much, Malai. Mike?
Well, good afternoon. So I wanted to repeat something Ron Fairchild said this morning, which I think is really important, which is that this learning and impact system will only work if it can be embedded in the regular workflow of the people in this room. I think that's what Ron said. And so I wanted to just spend a few minutes talking about how I think that's possible to embed this in the regular workflow of the people in this room. I think a lot of you are like us and you work for third grade reading initiatives in your communities. And we think of ourselves as a collective impact initiative, and we are the backbone organization for that. And I feel comfortable in this room because most of you know what that means, but most people I talk to don't know what that means. And so what I say is that we mobilize the community to increase third grade reading proficiency in Kansas City, Missouri. And so one day my son, who's 6, asked me, what do you do at work, Daddy? And I said that. I said, I mobilize the community. And so he said, well, no, I mean, like, what do you do? I know you guys teach kids to read. Are you like my teacher? And I said, no, I'm not like your teacher. So I was trying to think how to explain it to a 6-year-old. So I said, well, you know how when the house is messy, Mommy will say, I can't clean this house by myself. I need you guys to clean your room. I need you to help me. I said, well, that's what I kind of do at work. We have this big reading problem. I try to nag people to help us fix it. So, and so he said, oh, so you clean houses? And I said, no, I clean up. I said, he he said, do you just go play on your computer? And I said, yeah, I just go play on my computer at work. which I do. I don't play, but I use it a lot. And I go to a lot of meetings, and I host a ton of meetings, and I schedule a ton of meetings. I don't like doing any of those things, but they're really important because we need those meetings because we need to compel people to do this work. We have a strategic plan in Kansas City that has some very ambitious goals, and it has about 40 strategies, and the people responsible for those strategies, most of them don't work for us, and so we can't force people to do anything. So we need to think of creative ways to compel, incentivize, convince people to do things. So one example of one of these strategies is a awareness campaign intended to increase support for pre-K. And the Chamber of Commerce is responsible for that specific tactic. And so my role is to nag, to nudge, to make sure that they're doing that. So this tool, this Learning and Impact System, LIS, LIS, is how I'm going to refer to it. LIS is a system that that I think can do three things day to day for us that could really embed this in our workflow. So the first is to share information and best practices. And so Zak showed you how you can do that. You can put in links to articles. You can upload documents. You saw my name next to a bunch of them. I had uploaded several documents in there. And in a private community, which they've set up for us, I can then set up my school attendance work group as one of those teams. And so when I uploaded those documents, those people in that community, which right now is just our intern Doug, but it's going to eventually be our whole school attendance team, they immediately get those documents. And then the important thing is they know that they're there, and they don't have to look through their email each time they want to see it or ask me to resend it. So sharing documents, sharing best practices, I kind of think of that as like a toy box, because those are like when kids get a new toy, they play with it for 5 minutes and then they never think of it again. So you put it in a toy box and then remind them, go look in the toy box, all this good stuff is in there. And so that's what you can do with this system. The second thing that we're trying to do in Kansas City that I'm really excited about is to share documents, to share shared documents. So with a Google Doc, as you probably know, 8 people can be working on the same document at once. The way we try to track our strategic plan is to organize it as a shared document, and we're going to try to put this in the Learning and Impact System so that we can ask members of these work groups to go in, provide updates on those, and it automatically will update the strategic plan implementation matrix that we have. And then the third thing that I think is maybe more my vision, I don't know if it's in the works right now, I know some of it is, which is data visualization. So I think some communities have really great data dashboards, like Charlotte's data dashboard is fantastic. We're trying to do something like that in Kansas City too, for the city, for the community. But there's certain data that we want to just share within our different work groups or with, inside baseball stuff. And so I think this system could be set up to do that so that we can share this data so that, again, members of these work groups, we have 4 of them, they can go in there and they can see this data on a routine basis without having to call me and ask for the data. So those are the 3 things that I think this system can really do to embed this in our day-to-day workflow, which is sharing information, shared documents, and data visualization.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. 2 things. Note to self and Ron, we may want to rethink that acronym based on live feedback here from Mike. Thank you. And what you've actually raised here, too, is our interest and the network's interest in this not just sitting on the desktop of the community lead. The intention here is to invite into the system all of your community partners, your coalition partner organizations. Zak, anything you want to say about that or that process?
The more the merrier.
The more the merrier. I mean,
so it's really, there's an element of critical mass when you're launching a new platform, a new system. We've launched systems in organizations as small as 5 people, 5-person startups in Silicon Valley that are around the corner from us. up to literally the entire country of Australia's education system, all of the teachers across the country of Australia, sort of everything in between. And it really, as was shared this morning and it's been sort of echoed, we have to use it to create that value and engage with it. And so there's sort of a critical mass of both people and resources, which we've really been working on over the last 6 months with the early adopter community and some of the folks up here. But the more that it is utilized in the network, the more it becomes part of your embedded day-to-day workflow to support some of these types of activities. You are not only using it to help organize and streamline your work, but you're also creating and contributing those artifacts that are what others will be able to gain that value from, both in the present as well as into the future. And so it's by creating that shared knowledge and resource base that then we can tap into that to harness the collective intelligence of the overall network.
So extraordinarily robust in terms of functionalities, in terms of capacity for members, again, a tremendous resource. Marissa.
Hi.
Roanoke.
So I'm going to talk about the way Star City Reads is beginning to use, I'm not going to call it lies, I'll call it the system, as both an organization within this broader national movement, but then also how we're using it internally. And I think the same principles apply to both. So first of all, as someone who coordinates a lot of the day-to-day work of the Star City Reads initiative, I want to be able to quote Ron, to not have to start from scratch when we're doing a new initiative or thinking about running a new program. So the ability to really filter my search the way Zak showed you, by partner type, by initiative, by who's won what award, is really helpful for me to, as someone with zero time, like none of us have any time ever, to get to that information really quickly, and then to know how to find that information, right? Every community's profile is structured the same. Every section of the system is structured the same, so it's really easy to navigate and use. But then beyond going to find the information, right, I'm not just going to stalk every community that I'm interested in, but then I can really easily connect to them, right? One of my favorite things is that when you go to a given community's profile page, you can see right away on the top right where their website is, what their social media is, who their contact people are, so you can then have that conversation. And in addition to just having that conversation, I think it's really fundamental that they've embedded the data functionality into this, because it allows us to move our work and our own inquiries into other communities beyond anecdotes, right? We all kind of know, like, oh, so-and-so's good at readiness, so-and-so's good at attendance. Well, now we'll be able to see it, right? And from that data, we can then have a conversation that will inform our own work. And then beyond that, as a member of this national movement, I think it's really important to be able to see what other communities are doing so clearly, because it helps to contextualize our own work when we're applying for grants, for example, to say 5 other people in the country are doing this, or 100 other communities are. And I think likewise that contextualization will be crucial in bringing that work to our communities. So we can either say, this is a brand new initiative, literally nobody else is doing it, so let us try and fail, please. Or we can say, look how many other people are doing this, they have the evidence and the proof points, therefore we should be doing this too, and here's how. So internally, the way I see this working is we are beginning to invite all of our coalition partners on to the system, and I think they're going to have access to resources that will, one, help to remind them that they are also members of this national movement, right? It's not just a given nonprofit in the city of Roanoke, but it's a nonprofit in the city of Roanoke that's part of this coalition, that's part of this broader coalition. And I think that's just going to be really heartening and help kind of motivate and move the work along. And I think that it will further enable communication internally within our community through these team functionalities. So we're a little bit less far along on the teams as my colleagues here are, but the way I'm seeing it working is eventually having a team for each solution area. But I think where it's really going to work most efficiently for us is by embedding the team functionality into new initiatives as they're getting them off the ground. So we are about to begin a couple of health initiatives targeted on very specific neighborhoods. So what I'm working with some of those partners on right now is making sure that we have a team for those initiatives going forward and can really embed it into how we work. And likewise with a parent engagement initiative that we're hoping to get launched off the ground. I think it will just help us to communicate more effectively. We have quarterly meetings, I know a lot of you do, or monthly work group meetings, but I think having the Declara system will really allow us to communicate more constantly. And I know you might be thinking like, oh my God, this is another thing I have to keep track of, but it really is so simple to use. And I know I've had social media my entire adulthood, but it's because of that, it's so easy to embed into your everyday work. So as our social media person, I am scanning our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram every day. I can add Declara into that, right? So it's not like you're gonna get 5,000 emails and ignore all of them. You can really tailor your experience of the system to how you'd like it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marissa. I see that we have right about 10 minutes or so to open up the floor for questions. Ron's got the mic. So right here. Yes.
Hi, thanks for the overview. I'm wondering, you spoke to the ability to share information and sharing documents. I'm wondering if there are any other project management features that you could hit on in terms of being able to task folks within those teams with different items and kind of timeline that in any way?
It is not really sort of project management. It's not the core focus of the platform. I can see ways in which you could leverage some functionality. For example, at mentioning people to assign different tasks, and there are embedded authoring tools with markup, so you can create, for example, checklists, and then call people out with it that are on the system within that context, and then publish those within a team. But there's not sort of like the task management element and sort of progress reporting pieces that I think you're probably speaking to are outside the current scope of functionality of the system.
Thank you for the question. Yes, other questions? Right over here in the back.
I think one of the challenges with interorganizational partnering in this really deep way is everybody has their own internal IT environment that they're working with, and then trying to share information across that can be challenging. And so this group's all on Google Drive, and this group's all on Windows 97, and this, like it's all over the place. And I'm just curious from the panelists, your experience on if this has helped kind of bridge that.
I'll go ahead and speak to that. We have, like you said, several different systems that go across all of our work groups, with Google Drive probably being the one that people utilize the most. I think the issue with Google Drive is that it's not very focused, and it really depends on the users that are going into it, whereas this particular system is entirely focused on the coalition that you're building, and also going deeper into school readiness, attendance, summer learning, whatever that space is that you're working in the most. And so I think the ability for it to really focus in, and you're sharing things that are very literally that thing that you're trying to work on, has made it easier for us to really target and search. The other thing is the search features that we're able to utilize goes beyond Google. If you put into Google a search for what Bob was saying, like school readiness or chronic attendance amongst rural systems, you'll get all of these different things that will come up. And although Zak doing the demo had 28 articles, that's a lot less than what you would type in if you were doing Google. And so I think it has been able to focus us a little bit better.
And one thing I would just say is, as you're onboarding new partners onto the system, is don't just send them an email invite and then they don't know what this thing is that they've gotten. Take the time to really sit down with them and show it to them. I did that last week with a partner, and just being able to have her see it and kind of play around with the system before she had her own login was a really important step in her appreciating the system for what it is and what it can be.
A little bit upfront will go a long way and provide disproportionate ROI. Also, you can also embed Google Docs.
Great.
Well, and one thing about the system to know is our primary audience, the folks we really want to be able to use this, are our community leads. So that's first and foremost our primary audience, and we want to make sure it works for all of you before we start expanding out to a lot of national partners and linking up with other resources and a lot of those things. It has to work for the network. It has to work for the network. And so any feedback you have including on the name. Like, well, I would love for feedback on the name, because I think I'm burnishing my reputation as the world's worst namer. The world's worst namer. So if you've got immediate ideas on that, or if you even want to put that in the survey, would love to hear feedback on the name.
Great.
Over
Hey,
here.
Ron, actually, Stephanie had a
Stephanie.
question over
Great.
here, and then we'll, yeah.
First, I want to say how cool it was to get a message on my phone that I was already invited to participate in a discussion about chronic absence in rural communities, so that was very cool. But as the state lead for Rhode Island, I was just thinking about some of the ways that state leads could use it, both to coordinate among the communities in their state, but also whether there might be, I don't think I've seen one yet, whether there might be any tools for state campaigns to share information with one another, because I don't think I've seen ways you can click on states, only on communities, and I'm just thinking that might be something that might be a useful addition.
Definitely in the queue. Ron, you may want to speak to that briefly.
Sure. I mean, that's one of our intentions in this system. I think you saw when we zoomed in on Iowa, eventually we're going to have state-level profiles, state-level teams, and connections between and among the states and the state leads. But again, this is highly iterative, where it's not one of those things that we want to build it perfectly and then present it. We want to show you a start and then take the next 18 months, really the next year and a half, to work together to perfect this and do that on a cyclical basis and work those cycles quickly.
We have time for one more question. I see right there. Yes.
Who did you point out? Oh, right.
Yes.
Okay.
So my question was about signing up, and if you, for instance, I'm the only member of my GLR community here. Do we sign up as our individual agency, and then we invite the rest of our community to sign up?
Yes.
And then how do we become one, small community within the larger community on the tool?
The short answer is take the survey on the app, because that is some of the information that we're actually gathering. If you're not on the system, if your community is not on the system, the unit of analysis here is the community, right? So the community needs to be a member of the system, and then by virtue of that, the community lead, and then we can expand to community partners. So all of that can be transferred to us, can be submitted to us via the app.
So this is a principle of how the campaign operates. It's the opt-in. Like, we're presenting an opportunity. We want you to opt in and take advantage of it. So the app, just to make this very concrete and specific, go to the GLR button on the home page of the app. So click on GLR. The very first thing, once you click on GLR, is called Survey. GLR Learning for Impact and Improvement System. Complete that survey and essentially raise your hand. Let us know you want to be part of the system, you want to join the system, and we are going to put cohorts together based on who raises their hand and says yes, and we're going to onboard communities in a rollout process that will commence when we leave GLR Week here in Philadelphia. Does that make sense?
Great question.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Wonderful
that
question. Thank you.
Ron, I'm going to call on you for some closing remarks in just a second, but before I do want to thank our panelists for your leadership. Thank all of the communities that have been a part of the road test thus far. We look forward to continuing to work with you. We look forward to other communities joining us in this effort. Would you join me in thanking our panelists, all of them? Ron?
So I'm going to do it from right here. I've walked a lot today. So first thing I want to do is thank Zak Zielezinski from Declara for being just such an incredible partner in all of this work. So please join me in thanking Zak. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank two members of our own team who are on that stage right now. Bob Saffold, who's been a friend and partner for many years, who's up for a challenge no matter what it is, and has just done such a fabulous job on this. And Alex Scott, who's our technology whiz at the campaign, has helped us with Salesforce, has helped us with this system, and just has done a fantastic job. So please join me in thanking both Bob and Alex. And our communities, including the 3 dynamos that are on the stage right now, Ames, Kansas City, and Roanoke. Fantastic work. Thank you for being the trailblazers on this one. Sometimes somebody has to go first, and I can always count on this network for folks to step up and say, sure, we're willing to take the risk, and be part of the early adopters and help inform this process for everyone else. So I know it's been a long day today. We're about to have a really fun reception, some other sessions and other things going on this evening. Tomorrow, the thing I wanted to make sure I did before we left here tonight, be sure you join the reception this evening too. It's a partnership reception. We're going to recognize our bright spots and our pace setters. It's going to be a fantastic reception. Please be sure to join us. That really is a celebration of the work of the network and the partnerships that we've created. Tomorrow, we've got a wonderful opening plenary session. There will be chairs in this room. We're going to reset this room theater style. We're anticipating it being packed. Tomorrow morning will be the largest gathering of the week for Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris. So I would encourage you to get here early if you're interested in being in this space, because there will be overflow space tomorrow, a couple different locations, and a lot of fun stuff going on tomorrow. But after Dr. Burke-Harris, we've got a couple of sessions. The bingo session I mentioned earlier, where we're going to transform this ballroom into the world's biggest bingo matrix. That's going to happen tomorrow afternoon. And then we will have a closing plenary tomorrow afternoon where we wrap up the community and state leads convening. There are a couple of great lunch conversations. One is a leading edge conversation with Lectio and with the Clear Impact Scorecard folks. The Clear Impact Scorecard undergirds a lot of what you heard from United Way Worldwide on their global results framework. That's the tool they use. Michael McAfee from PolicyLink, they use that tool as well. So that session is I think, a great session for you to participate in at lunch. Also, there's a session called United to Read with our partners that are involved in a large-scale effort around literacy instruction and providing instructional support for teachers. And there's a session about the X Prize for adult literacy, which is a 2-gen strategy. So all 3 of those are kind of leading-edge lunch conversations designed specifically for all of you. And then after that, we'll do the bingo and the other sessions. Any questions about sessions or anything else related to the agenda, please feel free to see me. Stop at the registration table. Thank you again for a fantastic day, and I hope you have a great night, and we'll see you a little bit later.
Hey, Joe. How are you?